Welcome to another counselor training. This training is on what we call the crisis cycle. And the crisis cycle is when a camper escalates and gets angry and explodes. There's a whole cycle involved in that. We're going to be talking about that and how to prevent an explosion where things are flying and names are flying and fists are flying. How do you keep that from happening at camp? Our campers come to camp with a lot of baggage, and they have a lot of buttons, and unfortunately it hasn't been modeled well for them on how to resolve conflict. So we're going to be talking about how to let the steam off before there's an explosion. So this is a picture of a volcano, and how do you prevent and care for an explosion of feelings? With a volcano, first you have the magma chamber down at the bottom, and that's where the steam starts to build up. And then as it progresses, it gets in the stack, and it's getting more and more intense. And then it comes out and it gets in the cool air, and it starts moist air, the hot magma and moisture create an explosion, and then the ash goes up in the air and falls down and lands on a whole city and covers it with ash, whatever. That's kind of how a volcano explodes. But there's also there's the same similar aspect with emotions and when they escalate and how things build up in conflict. So the first thing we have is the trigger, and that is a camper's walking across the field. Somebody says something to him, and it hits his button, and he starts feeling these negative emotions. And earlier we talked about the care cycle or the fear cycle. Okay, he starts feeling something, all right, and he might go around 2 or 3 times, feeling his feeling, and then thinking about it, and getting a little more angry. That camper, he doesn't like me. He was. And he starts building this up, right? And then it smolders, and he gets angrier. Maybe he says something, and then it starts to really build up and spit, and they start getting ready to fight. And then they're in the fight or flight space, right? And what happens when we get there is, instead of being in the front of our brain where we do most of our thinking and reasoning, what we call the prefrontal cortex, you're at the back of your brain at fight or flight. And your vision narrows. Your ability to hear is way dissipated. And your one focus is what's in front of you and either fighting with the person in front of you or turning and getting out of there. So some initial fight or flight. The fight might be verbal attack, it might be name calling, it might be getting physical, getting up in somebody's face, it might be get to where it's pushing, of course, an actual fight. And then the flight is the other direction where camper runs off, or that would be an extreme. But also flight can be just, I'm not going to talk to you anymore. Or there's also the freeze where they're there but they're not there. They've just kind of pulled back into themselves, and they're no longer present physically or emotionally, even though they're present physically. And if they're going into the fight direction, the next thing is the explosion. And of course, after a conflict, then there's the cool down. There's the, wow, all that happened and I exploded and made a lot of messes, and now what do I do? How do I clean up the messes that I made? How do I get restored back to the team? So we're going to talk about trigger first. When you're triggered, when the trigger happens, this is the best point to intervene, of course. When somebody makes a comment at him and you can see the other camper starting to scowl, that's a good place to say, hey, it looks like you're upset. What's going on? Do we need to go talk to somebody? And kind of help them process things, because they're still up in the front of their brain. Of course, you want to manage your own emotions. Taking care of your emotions consistently throughout camp. so there's not stuff boiling underneath for you. It's really important. And listen, ask some questions and then listen. Hey, can you tell me more about that? And it's a listening to understand rather than a listening. Oh, I'm angry because he said I'm stupid. Well, that doesn't make sense. Why would you be angry because of that? But you want to listen for understanding, and then help them do it their own emotions. Help them, you can walk them through a care cycle, and help them attend to their emotions. And then you can have the campers go ahead and talk to each other if it seems like it's necessary. Sometimes it's just, actually, I kind of misinterpreted the situation. I'm fine. And go on. Sometimes there's still a little bit of hurt there, and it's good to talk about the problem and to walk them through the continuum, the emotional continuum. Back to smoldering, of course, you still need to manage your own emotions and your body. If you walk up to your camper like this or like this, they're going to feel a lot more attacked, and that's going to continue to escalate things versus having an open, hey, it seems like you're upset. What's going on here? Some people have recommended you play with your ring. Just kind of put your hands together, not in your pockets, because of course if there's a conflict, if it keeps escalating, you don't want your hands in your pockets. You want them out so that you can, move people in directions that are safe. Talking helps them keep calm, and also make sure your voice is calm when you're talking. You don't want to be escalating your voice or getting more intense. Proverbs talks about how a soft answer turns away wrath, and so having that understanding, curiosity, and you can give them choices. You seem pretty upset. Do you want to give it a little bit of time, cool down? Maybe go for walk down to the petting zoo. We can talk while we walk. Or do you want to write out what you're feeling? And those are kind of choices, but they're good choices versus don't do this, where they feel controlled, or stop being angry, stop giving them a choice. Hey, do you want to go to the petting zoo and talk about it on the way, or do you want to write this out? Other good choices would be you want to talk to the counselor coach about this, or hey, do you want to do an emotional continuum? Do you want to go talk to them and tell them what you felt and how that went? Giving them choices. Offer information if needed. Sometimes what has happened is they have jumped to a conclusion about the situation. So giving them more information, bringing the truth in the situation helps dissipate the anger. And of course, listen. Don't argue. You remember that they're headed toward the fight or flight part of the brain. So when you start to argue, where are they going to go? They're going to go there a whole lot faster because now they feel attacked by you. Whereas if rather than arguing, you can still say, hey, it seems like maybe walking down the petting zoo might be a good idea, or riding, what do you think? And separate the campers. Sometimes at the carpet ball table, there tends to be conflicts there. And so being able to pull them aside and say, hey, let's talk about this, but pull them aside separately so you can de-escalate them, and then you can help them. You can bring them back in the relationship and talk about it, and respect their space. The more you crowd a camper when they're starting to feel angry, the more likely they are to continue to escalate because, again, they don't feel safe and they're headed toward the fight or flight part of the brain. The next part is the just about ready to blow up. And at this point, they have made it to the fight or flight part of the brain. And reasoning really doesn't make sense. How many of you ever remember talking to a child and all you hear was the same phrase over and over and over again? And you try to reason with them and there's no reasoning happening. And the reason that is because they're at the back of the brain. They're not at the reasoning part. Again, during this point, you want to manage your own emotions. Have a stance that doesn't feel attacking or threatening. Separate the campers. Hey, let's go down to the petting zoo and and take a walk with the camper, depending on you. You want to kind of, in essence, you want to distract them, but it's not a long-term distraction. It's not like you want to distract them and never get back to the conflict, because we really want to teach our campers how to deal with conflict. But right now they're at their back part of the brain, the fight or flight, and you want to pull them back to the front. So often I'll pull them aside and I'll say, hey, so tell me about your family. Do you have any brothers or sisters? Or tell me about your school, or tell me about, do you have any pet animals? And the idea is you want to get them going to the front of the brain, because now they have to find information. They answer your question, so they have to think. And that'll pull them to the front of their brain. It also pulls them away from the conflict and what they're angry about. As they start to de-escalate, you can say, ask them, hey, would you like to talk? And then just listen. And, some of that listening is, tell me more about that. You really want to be careful that you don't jump to conclusions. It's really easy to do that, where, I don't like Susie. And your immediate conclusion is, she's kind of selfish and has a bad attitude. In reality, maybe, ever since they got on the bus, Susie's been picking on her. And it's not that she's the bully picking on Susie, but actually Susie's the one that's hurting her, and she doesn't like Susie because she continues to aggravate her and to treat her with disrespect. And so asking, gaining more understanding, tell me more about that. That's going to really help. Give physical space. I really like to think about, sometimes you can be talking to a camper. I think earlier I talked about, I remember a boy named Solomon who was ready to leave camp, and he was running, and so I kind of followed him, and I got it to, I was able to talk to him and get him feeling safer, and we got it to a place where he was maybe 12 feet away, and he was just walking around, and I was okay with that. I could see him, he wasn't going anywhere, we could continue to talk, and he felt safe, and that's okay. Give them their physical space. But again, you want physical space, but not around the other camper that they're angry with. You want to make sure you lead them away from all. Of course, you want to avoid raising your voice. All right, and if you're able to really do what we just talked about here, it's very unlikely that the camper will continue to escalate. If the camper does continue to escalate, maybe you don't realize. Maybe you're just doing maybe you don't quite have the skills to de-escalate the camper. And that's a good time to think, you know what, this is not really going well. I don't know what it is about me or whatever. And maybe you just remind them of somebody else. It has nothing to do with you at all. But realizing, okay, this is still escalating. I'm going to get some help. I'm going to say to another counselor, hey, can you run and get the counselor coach? Or can you run and get in bed? Or can you get the director? So somebody else can come and help de-escalate the situation. Then, of course, there's the explosion, right? Words are flying, fists are flying. They're really into this. Again, you want to manage your emotions, right? You want to, there's no problem happening here. You don't be freaking out, okay? Take a deep breath, calm yourself down, okay? You want to remove the campers from each other again, separate them. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. Get help if needed. What you don't want to do is restrain a camper. Over the 12 years of camp that we've had, I've never had a camper that hurt a counselor deliberately. We chicken fight and stuff, so they get hurt. But never had a camper deliberately hurt a counselor, except when the counselor was trying to restrain him. Or the person was trying to restrain the child. The child felt trapped. He responded by hurting. And we all do this. If I were to grab any one of you guys, put you on the floor, put you in a headlock, and I was just going to hold you there, even the sweetest ones of you would fight and get out of that because you feel trapped. All right, and the campers feel the same way. Don't trap them. Okay, direct them away from the conflict. Don't trap them. Give physical space, and then help the camper calm down again. And I think a lot of times at this point, is not really even talking, just walking. Maybe you're walking down the petting zoo, you're walking away, and just let them calm, because they're in the fight or flight big time. And after giving a little bit of time, you can say, hey, what's going on there? What were you feeling? And help them process it. Speak using their names. That's really helpful, because by the time they're in fight or flight, they're not hearing. So saying, hey, Johnny, let's go down to the petting zoo, or Johnny, looks like you're upset. Tell me about this, and leading him away. It helps him pull away a little bit to catch contact, to connect with you, and then give short phrases. Don't do the long lectures. Again, at this point, they're at the back of their brain. They can't really reason. So just short questions, short phrases are really helpful. All right, so physical intervention. Okay, if we have a camper that runs away, we want you to follow them, keep them in eyesight, but don't run after them. Okay, again, when they're running, they're feeling attacked, right? So if you're running after them, they're going to feel like, oh, they are chasing me. When I was a kid, I was a mischievous boy, and there's one time where we had a cat, and I decided to put the cat on a dog leash. Only it was one of those metal dog leashes, and the cat identified the sound of the dog leash as the dog. I dropped the leash, and this cat went all over the house, just wild as anything, running for this dog that was right on its tail, and finally got stuck underneath the bed, doing a sound. And I unclipped the leash, and then the cat felt safe again. But when you're chasing after a camper, that's what they're feeling. Even though you don't think, I'm not attacking them, I'm trying to take care of them, they're thinking, the dog's after me. So don't chase closely. Just keep an eye on them. Now, if they do leave camp, if they do go in the woods, you want to alert the counselor coaches, the director. You want to tell someone, hey, can you go tell the counselor coach I need his help over here. We don't want to walk into the woods, especially if the camper runs in the woods. We can always bring a sheriff dog in to find a lost camper in the woods. But if everyone goes wandering in the woods trying to find this kid, there's so much scent in the woods that the dog won't know what scent to follow. So hair pulling. What do we do when a camper pulls your hair? The first thing you want to do, of course, is remain calm. If you grab your hair and you scream and whatever, it really heightens the event. But you want to stay calm, and then you want to place your hand over their hand and hold it tight to your head so that they can't pull. Also, you want to be communicating with the child while they're pulling your hair. So you want to say to the child, now I need you to let go of my hair, and then you're going to be squeezing their hand, releasing, I need you to let go of my hair. We're going to be okay, we're going to work through this, and slowly work your hand out. And then usually it ends up being a two-person. You can do it as one person. What you're going to do is you're just going to squeeze and release their hand while you slowly work their hair out of your hair out of their fingers. So you can have one hand here where you're squeezing and releasing, and the other you're working your hair underneath and pulling it up. Of course, for a short guys with short hair, not a problem. If they're pulling another child's hair, again, put your hand over top of the other child's hair, and then at that point you'll need another person to help you, like co-counselor, slowly squeeze and release. But often you can look at the other child who's doing the hair pulling and say, Amy, I need you to stop pulling your hair, and we need to go talk. And if you can give directions that way, often you can start de-escalating the situation. All right. So when you see a camper conflict that's escalating, it looks like they're just about to get in a fight, or they're just starting to get in a fight, or there's that conflict starting to happen. You want to pick the child that you had the most rapport with, the child you know best, and you also want to look at the size. You don't want to pick a big 120-pound male who plays football and say, okay, and you're a little girl and you're gonna lead him aside. Okay, you want to pick the camper that you feel like you could actually intervene with and give more direction to. So you can look at the sides as well. You want to say their name. So you would say, hey, Michael, and you're going to put your right hand behind their elbow, okay, so that they can't hit you, all right? And you put your left hand on their shoulder and say, hey, Michael, I need, what's going on here? And you're going to keep talking to Michael, and you're going to lead him away. Hey, Michael, what's going on? It sounds like you're really excited, and you're going to walk him away. And the conflict and everything is going to be behind you. And then the same thing's going to happen. Ideally, you're going to look for another counselor who's there as well. And you're going to say, hey, I'll take Michael, you take, and then you'll lead Michael off, and the other person will lead the other person off the other direction. And you want to just keep talking to them. It seems like you're upset. What's going on there? What did Amy do? And you're talking to them, and they're in fight and flight, so they got tunnel vision right here. And then all of a sudden somebody's talking over here, and so they're going to look away, and now they can't see anything that's happening here. And you're going to keep talking to them and engaging them in his face, and then walking him away. And again, what you're not doing here is you're not restraining him. If you came in and you see there's a fight coming, and you put your arms around him and say, hey, you need to stop this, what's going to happen is he's going to start fighting you because now you're the threat. So you want to engage Michael, or whatever the child's name, say their name, say, hey, it looks like you're really upset, and then lead them off. We actually had a fight, where a girl knocked a girl on the ground and was kicking her. Obviously, I'm not going to lead the girl on the ground away, because, it'd be a little bit difficult. So I just walked with the girl who was angry, and I put my hands on her shoulders. It sounds like you're really angry, and walked her off. And it de-escalated really fast. And take them away from the group. You can take a walk across the field, you go down to the barn, you go to the petting zoo, but kind of just lead the person away. And then you're going to start de-escalating the angry camper. Okay, and now we're to the cool down stage. The conflict has happened. You led the camper away. You led the upset camper away, and now you just want to see how the camper's responding. If he's de-escalating with, wow, I was really angry, and he's starting to process it, just support them in that effort. If the camper's not, they're staying angry and everything, you might want to talk about some other things so you can pull them in the front of their brain. So tell me about your family, and engage them in something else, and then go back to the conflict and start helping them process what happened there. And your other goal here is just to reestablish relationship with the camper so that they really feel, again, safe in their relationship with you, so then you can coach them in resolving the conflict. Now, for both the initial trigger, before the explosion, and during the cool down stage, there's some things that you really want to consider. First thing, the goal is to help the camper calm down. And sometimes, especially if they are still in that fight or flight, you removing them from the group, taking a walk, going and petting some animals, swinging. It's a great way to get them back to the front of their brain so they can start thinking again. And then listen. Your initial response is, okay, they said something that wasn't true, and I got to respond to this. I got to say something. And if you can pause and just say, well, tell me more about that. Tell me. What makes you feel that way? Where do you see that? Where's that feeling coming from? Tell me more about that. It helps draw them out and maybe help them think some more. And then at some point you can ask them more processing questions, but do that listening. And then the other thing you can do is reflect back. So what I hear you saying is when Amy said that, you really felt like she was trying to put you down, or trying to make you look stupid. And so you're kind of reflecting back, this is what you're feeling. And the camper might say, yeah, that's exactly what I'm feeling. Or no, it's not. It wasn't Amy. It was Sarah. It was the way Sarah looked at me when Amy said that comment. And so you're able to figure out where things are really coming from. And then help them explore their feelings. Okay, so when she said that, you felt stupid, or you felt like they didn't care about you, and helping her process, or him process, what he's feeling is really important. Because if he can think through what he's feeling, then he can start taking care of those feelings and finding solutions for taking care of themselves, being responsible for their feelings. After you kind of explored, and if you think this through, you're going to see that this is really the care cycle. After you've thought through what they're feeling, you kind of help them take responsibility. Then it gets to the they've been aware of their feelings, and you can actually pray with the camper, say, hey, can we pray about this? And so you say, and if they say no, you say, well, I'm going to go ahead. You can go ahead and pray silently. Ask God to help you think it through. But often they will say, yeah, we can pray about it. So God, help us as we try to figure out what your solution is for this problem. And then you want to remind them about their responsibility for their feelings. And then you can start asking them questions. Have you ever felt this way before? Does anyone else at home treat you this way? You kind of do that exploring. So then you're asking them, is this all about now, or what are you bringing into the situation? You can also ask, so what did you do that, what things happened there that maybe you could have done differently that wouldn't have made the problem kind of head the way it went? And kind of help them process, well, maybe throwing rocks at Susie wasn't a good idea. Or something like that, right? And then the next thing would be, what is the truth about the situation? Maybe the truth is the way Amy said it was funny, and so yes, of course, Sarah laughed, but it wasn't because Sarah didn't care about her. Sarah just laughed because she was uptight, and Amy said something funny. And kind of helping the girl kind of process, oh yeah, I do that too. Sometimes Mom says, this isn't funny. Mom's really angry, and I laugh. And it's not because I don't care about Mom. It's just because there's tension in the room, and I laugh. And helping her kind of process the truth of the situation. Then asking her, so what do you want to do? How do you want to resolve this situation? What do you think you could do to help restore your relationship with Sarah? And asking those questions. Another thing you can do during this time is share your story. Tell a story when you were upset or when you were stuck and you worked through it. And that kind of helps them, it takes them off the hot seat for one, so they can start thinking because they're not feeling trapped so much anymore. And it also gives them a framework where they can think through, oh yeah, so that's how so-and-so responded. Maybe that is a better way. And it gives them an idea, a picture of a proper way to handle the conflict. And then when you're all done, it's a really good time to pray and ask God, God, help, we'll call her Megan, who's angry. Help Megan as she goes and talks to Sarah. Help her to have the right words to say, and help her, and just kind of praying a blessing over her as she takes responsibility for her feelings, and even praying about the future. Next time this conflict happens, help her, give her wisdom about how to respond in a different way. And pray, ask God to comfort some past hurts and things like that. But just connecting the whole situation back to God, so they realize, oh wait, I am in relationship with God, and I'm in relationship with other people. All right, so now we're kind of at the last part of the whole conflict. This is the most exciting part. This is when you get to restore relationships and help bridge the gap between the camper and the one that they were in conflict with, or the group of people that they were in conflict with. We have the emotional continuum. And so this is where you want to use the emotional continuum, where you take the camper back to the group and say, hey guys, Amy and we just talked about, and I talked about some things, and Amy realizes that really wasn't handled the best, but we're going to go ahead and do the emotional continuum. So Amy can share this is how I felt when, and it might be good for the group. It'd probably be good for the group as well, different ones to share. This is what I felt when as well. And have them share their feelings back. And then then that is the time when the camper who has wronged the group or wronged the individual to say, hey, I'm sorry for, I was wrong for, would you please forgive me? And then the other person, more often than not, has something to say, hey, I'm sorry for, I was wrong for, would you forgive me? And then they're going to shake hands, and that's going to kind of be the symbol of the restored relationship. You do want to make sure you still follow up with his own consequences. So if a camper broke any one of the camp rules, you want to make sure they keep the consequences still there, and and then just get back to having fun together and get back to having, that's what camp's about. So that's kind of the whole spectrum for conflict and how we resolve conflict at camp. Again, number one thing, take a deep breath, make sure you stay calm. There's so much you can do when you're calm. When you're intense, it really just takes the whole thing up. And as a counselor, if you can focus on your campers and how they're doing early on, pick up on the little snippy remarks, the little cuts, the little conflicts, and say, hey, do we need to do an emotional continuum? And go ahead and go after it then. It's a whole lot easier than when waiting until, okay, I think we got a problem here. And your co-counselor's going, you think so? Maybe she shouldn't be hitting, right? If you can pick that up early, that's really going to save you a lot of time in the fire zone. And you're also modeling the campers early on. Let's express our feelings. Let's talk. Because communication is one of the big things that's missing. But let's talk early, and then we don't have to go all the way to the big explosion. All right, well, that's it for this lesson.